Hi. So blustery, cold day here in Sunderland, as I imagine it is across much of the country. Um, there's a few things I want to cover here, so bear with me. Um, Firstly, I just want to talk briefly about the sad news today that Captain Sir Tom Moore has passed away at the age of 100. COVID is being mentioned, but I think we should be a little cautious about that. Regardless, it's sad news. There aren't many people who attain fame very late in life. Some people attain it when they're middle aged and a little bit older, some writers and politicians, but there's not many people that attain fame leading up to their century, and he did, and that was richly deserved. Um, because this started off as a well-meaning endeavour to raise £1,000, and it ended up, I think I'm right in saying it was a record 32 million, which is a staggering amount of money, and all for good cause, to help out various services within the NHS at this most difficult time for the NHS. Um, so that really is his humanitarian legacy. And I think all the attention that he got is well deserved. I actually got GQ magazine a few months ago to show you the cover. I don't often buy GQ, but I thought this one would be historic. And yeah, quite a man. Um, like many men and women of his generation, he served in World War II. He was in the Burma campaign, which was a notoriously tough campaign. He suffered, I believe, dengue fever. And he did have an appearance on TV actually in the 80s when he was on the game show Blankety Blank, but I don't think anyone watching them would have known that almost 40 years later he would be the basically, let's say it, iconic figure that he has become. I mean, this guy represented the best of British. He really did. Generosity, stoicism, optimism, a true patriot, but in many ways a normal man as well. I mean, he was very down to earth, and it's sad news. But with someone like that, I think a legacy does live on. There was a great mural in Abergavenny of both Tom Moore and Dame Vera Lynn. Um, this mural, I believe, was done as he was doing his fundraising. So anyway, it's sad news, but hopefully the Times will cover that tomorrow in an obituary, and they'll they'll do a good write up of what really is a full life. So rest in peace, Tom Moore. You were a British icon. Um, okay, there's a few practical things regarding my channel. Um, some of you may know that I keep a Facebook page, which is just about this channel. But to be honest, I'm really not active on that. I just have it there as a kind of fan page. So if you've subscribed to the channel, you can find this on Facebook, just Centrist Philosopher YouTube page, I think it's called. Feel free to like that. Um, I have to apologize here because I'm not very active on that. Sometimes I get messages and I'm not always quick to respond. So recently I've got messages from just name a few people here, Declan, Thomas. You guys have sent me messages there, asking my thoughts on particular issues. I appreciate that. I appreciate the time that you're devoting. Um, I don't know if I'm going to maintain that page because I just don't spend that long on it. Um, I do try to have interaction with subscribers, particularly people who are long-term regular subscribers. I do try to give a bit of feedback and follow up. There's a lot of interesting subjects that you guys have brought up, such as the Scottish independence thing, and recent rift with the EU and Britain over vaccines. And, these are all important topical issues. One big issue in the news right now is this coup that's just happened in Burma. Um, there was an interesting piece of footage around that, outside of the politics, just kind of an aesthetic image. which was a young woman doing yoga practice. And I don't know if you've seen this, but she was just kind of getting on with it as the tanks were rolling in behind her. Quite a remarkable scene. I think every year has defining images. Like last year, one of the defining images was Captain Tom Moore, Sir Tom Moore, getting knighted by the Queen in the Open. Centenarian being knighted by a near centenarian monarch. So that was quite something. They're of the same generation. This year, I suspect, there's just certain images in news media that kind of become symbolic of events in a year. So that young woman doing the yoga is going to be something associated with this coup. Burma, of course, has a long history of coups, but I'll just talk briefly about that because it might be as things develop more for another video. Daw Aung San Suu Kyi has, of course, had a bit of a fall from grace due to her silence on the Rohingya issue. But just to play the devil's advocate for a second, I do think she was in a very difficult position because she was a civilian leader in a government which was quite strongly influenced by a military junta, a brutal military junta. Um, and in the end of the day, she is a politician. She has to have a balancing act. All iconic figures do. Mandela did as well. Having said that, her silence on the Rohingya issue is hard to condone. But regardless, the situation right now is definitely a step back, and it's troubling. Um, and it's a bit of a joke that the Chinese Communist Party described it as a reshuffle. I mean, of course they're in it. They're experts when it comes to totalitarianism. But it's interesting though because the Chinese Communist Party and the Burmese military junta aren't exactly bedfellows. So it's interesting that they would kind of be serving as cheerleaders for them. China has its fingers in a lot of pies. It wants commercial interests across Southeast Asia, so that's probably a big part of it. It's a fragile situation, and it's definitely something I'll be paying close attention to. And I'm just going to round up this video. I'm at 7 minutes now, so I'm going to round this up with something I just wanted to talk about, just some general observances about life, actually. COVID has been really the defining event of my lifetime in so many ways, in terms of how it's impacted the world, um, in terms of certainly mortality. I mean, over 100,000 deaths in this country. That is staggering. There's no way to downplay that. Even if you go for a more conservative figure, it's just from one event in one year, that is staggering. It really is. And these people who say it's just like flu, um, a bad flu year might cost 25,000 lives, not 100,000. So I get quite annoyed, if I'm being honest, when I hear people saying it's just like the flu. I read a sad story recently about a young woman, 25 years old. She was a volunteer in the mental health field. Um, I think she was a nurse. I can't quite recall if that was her background, but 25 years old. I heard about a young police officer, 40 years old. So there are quite a lot of young people who are dying from this. It's again, people say it's only old people with pre-existing conditions. That is not true. Um, and that's why I don't think we should treat it just like the flu. Although the flu can, of course, be deadly, but one thing about COVID is these are very strange days because on one hand, this is a terrible thing. It's a deadly pandemic. The whole world shut down, businesses being impacted, and I think there are legitimate questions around the fallout from lockdown, not only economically but also on people's mental health. There are some very legitimate questions around that. However, the fact the world has slowed down a bit isn't an entirely bad thing. There may be some opportunities with that. In terms of ecology, it's probably been a good thing. I've heard some positive reports about certain species being on rebound. Yesterday, I heard a report that rhinos, southern rhinos, Fewer were killed last year than would usually be the case. Now, obviously, it's terrible that any are killed, but that would indicate that this might be a good time for conservation, or at least a bit of a window of opportunity. I remember early in the pandemic when there was images around the world of, for example, the canals in Venice being this beautiful, pristine teal color because there was no vessels on them. Even in my city, I remember seeing ducks walking through Sunderland city centre. It must have been confused because they're usually just confined to our public park. But if it's kind of slowed down human activity, that's not entirely a bad thing. I'm not talking, obviously, it's bad for business, it's bad for economics, but in terms of ecology, I would say it's kind of been an offset of COVID. I mean, in a way that I suppose you could compare it to this on some level. The Black Death was the deadliest event in human history, yet out of the Black Death came the Renaissance. So, or on a smaller scale, the Great Plague of London, 1665, well, the Great Fire of London, thought to have killed off the plague. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that. Um, so sometimes with a bad event, there could be opportunities for some more positive things. I don't think you could ever sort of say it's a positive thing because a lot of people have lost their lives. People are grieving. It's been definitely more bad than good. But on a personal level, I have to say I felt more productive this year, certainly 2021 than I have been for some time. I just feel that I've got more paperwork done. I've just been generally more productive. I've read more. I It's allowed me to kind of get things in order. And I just think that it's so important sometimes in life to just calm down, just break things down. You know, anyone who's ever been through clinical depression, and I have, you'll know that one of the factors is that life can seem overwhelming. Well, this ironically, unless of course you're a nurse or another frontline worker, for most of us, this is a time that I think we should take as an opportunity to just sort our lives out, just tidy up, just get things in order. That could be a good thing. I'm quite optimistic about that, and I find also I've been calmer of late. You know, more often than not, there are things in the news that work me up, and I feel angry about injustice, human rights abuses, and so on, whatever it may be. And I still do. You know, I'm a passionate person. I get angry about things. I get passionate about things. But I've also realized that mental health and physical health are both very important. And with that, I've also tried to take things easy. So it's just interesting juxtaposition of being productive, but also taking things easy, not being too hard on myself. And I would urge anyone watching this, whatever you're doing in life, whether you're applying for jobs, whether you're in a job, whether you're just, you know, waiting for the vaccine, whatever it is, let's take this as an opportunity. I do think in some ways the world slowed down a bit, and that isn't an entirely bad thing. It allows us to put things in context. It allows us to um, just reflect a little bit. When life becomes too cluttered, it's so easy to get stressed out and overwhelmed. Um, but I see this as a sort of a good thing from that point of view. I mean, there's aspects of this I really don't like. I miss the cinema a lot, and my city only has one cinema, so I'm a bit worried that, or concerned that, you know, the financial hardship that it faces might mean that having an impact on whether it reopens or not. That would be a total tragedy. It's actually the thing I miss most. I think I can hear my phone. So I'll wrap this up. Thanks for watching, but just, you know, life is Life is for living. Just make the most of it. Take things easy. And best wishes, everyone. Thanks for your support.